Who on earth is going to be this team's leading receiver next year? When's the next chance we could see a Heisman contender? And yes, finally, men's basketball, they're doing it. They're playing at the Superior Dome. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down, and pretty soon the Olympic sports are going to stop sporting like we want them to. But hey, this summer, FanDuel is still hooking us all up with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for ending your week with us here at Locked On Spartans. Holy smokes, 3 weeks until kickoff. Until then, and until the rest of this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, comment below who you think is going to be the leading receiver for Michigan State this year. And any questions, which we will get to a few in this show, hit us up, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. All right, and away we go into the show. And guys, I'm sorry to do this. It's a somber way to start the show, but albeit a very necessary one. This is a story that should be on all of our minds right now because, unfortunately, Armarion Smith's mother, Gala, she passed away at the age of 41. And Armarion Smith, not just a safety for Michigan State, of course, one of 6 children to her. She was battling nearly a 2-year battle with breast cancer. Ramped up, obviously, to the point of no return the last few weeks. There were some fundraisers. Shout out to This Is Sparta. They cooperated and joined together to have some fundraisers to build up what they could for the family over there. So outpouring of support on Twitter from the whole team. Unfortunately, Armarion Smith also tweeted saying that this is the worst night of his entire life. Incredibly, understandably so. So thoughts, prayers go out to Armarion, his siblings, his family, but also, perhaps finances too, because we added the GoFundMe link to the description of this episode. So if you want to give a little to the family over there, you know where to do it. It's just right here below. So somber way to start the episode, of course, guys, but, just top of mind right now. This all just happened not too long ago, and it's a Spartan that needs our help, point blank. So there's no good way to transition off that. There's absolutely no worth or no point in even trying. But here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about football. Things that matter way less than what we just talked about, of course, there with Armarion Smith and everything going on. Chad Wilt, Keith Bhonapha, 2 of the assistant coaches added to the staff this offseason. They spoke with the media. We don't have a ton to go over there before we get into mailbag questions, but really quick, just want to shout out Kenny Jordan of Spartan Mag. This is a tweet from him. This is from Chad Wilt, the defensive ends coach and also co-special teams coordinator. Now, the tweet reads, Wilt says he's comfortable with about 3 guys to contribute right now at rush end, not including Jordan Hall, who will be used in that position in certain situations. Now, earlier this week, Jordan Hall was seen with that rush edge position. He was also seen with the linebackers, the position he played as a true freshman last year. So we were hypothesizing, where could he fit or when would he fit on that defensive line? And we said, maybe 1st and 10 because, that will get Jordan Turner and Cal Halliday and Wayne Matthews all in the field at the same time with Jordan Hall, a very talented player, of course, as we saw in his 6 starts last year as a true freshman last year. Maybe that's where he goes. Or, then again, come to think about it, maybe the situation will be for passing downs. Maybe the defensive line, if we could all close our eyes and imagine this together. Jordan Hall at rush end, Quindarius Dunnigan in the middle, Jalen Thompson in the middle, and Anthony Jones perhaps on the outside. Just getting some speed out there for 3rd and long passing down situations with the linebackers being Wayne Matthews. Pick your middle linebacker here. It could be Cal Halliday, Jordan Turner for this passing down situation, or Darius Snow. Okay, maybe he can have some pass coverage. We don't know if he's anywhere close to 100% or what even his 80% would look like, but maybe something out there. Or Angelo Gross bump into the inside linebacker, or not inside linebacker, to outside linebacker on passing down situations. Not out of the realm of possibilities. So it's going to be a nice canvas for Chad Wilt to work with here. He did name Anthony Jones and Tyler Gillison, 2 transfers from the offseason, as guys that are ready. Part of the 3 guys that are ready. And also earlier this week, Avery Dunn's name was mentioned. Pretty solid year for him last year. So that could possibly be your trio right there of guys that are ready to play that position right now. Anthony Jones, Tyler Gilson, and Avery Dunn. Now, Keith Bhonapha, the running backs coach over at Michigan State. This, again, is another tweet from Kenny Jordan of Spartan Mag. Bhonapha says that when he was recruiting K'Ron Lynch Adams, the transfer from UMass, that is, through the portal, he asked him why he left Rutgers after his second season there in 2020. Yes, this will be Lynch Adams' third spot here in college. Now, the tweet goes on to say Lynch Adams said that he, quote, probably shouldn't have, and that he was young and immature. Bhonapha said that's when he decided he really wanted him here because it takes a lot to be self-aware and admit mistakes. God, I mean, just more than college kids have a hard time doing that, especially, those that play skill positions that are deemed as, selfish, look at me, I never do anything wrong players, as the cliches go. But yeah, this kid seems incredibly down to earth, and this is just another notch in the belt of Jonathan Smith bringing in guys that fit a culture here. It seems like he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, and, well, he's got some pretty good legs to go along with his run game, too. 1,100 yard rusher for the UMass Minutemen last year. Now, we're going to go swimming into the mailbag here because, I came out on Twitter. I was like, guys, please, I need some mailbag questions. And as you always do, you guys delivered. If you have any questions during this YouTube live show, by the way, go ahead and comment on the side. That's right. It's been a while since we've done a YouTube live show. I figured, screw it. Why not? Let's just get nuts. But Pablo Chacon, I'm sure that's his legal name. I'm sure that's what's on his driver's license. He wrote a trio of questions. The first one is going to be, who will lead the Spartans in receiving this year? I'm going to go boring. Hate to do this. I'm very sorry, but I'm going to go with the guy who's the leading pass catcher, leading yards guy last year, Montorie Foster. I will say it's going to be close. Like Jerron Glover, barring he stays healthy for the entire year, I think he is going to keep it very close. Jerron Glover, the 6'1" guy out of Florida, even last year in the offseason, he was catching a lot of people off guard with how well he was playing. Didn't get to play the full season last year. And in this offseason, all that he did was jump in the transfer portal and take a visit down to Georgia. Not Georgia State, but no, like that actual Georgia. So they had a little bit of interest in him, but ultimately came back to Michigan State. Now, for Montorie Foster, what a great rise for him, right? I mean, this is going to be his 5th year at Michigan State, but yet his 6th year playing football, like just anywhere. He didn't play varsity football down in Ohio until his senior season. He was a basketball player, and I just look at him just flying the field. You could see where the basketball abilities come into play here, but just a nice little road here, slow descent, really exploded last year in the middle of the 500 yards category. And I got to say, with the offense last year, what it was, it's a strong season for a receiver to have that. I know that's not shooting for sky-high expectations, but that's probably as good of a season for a receiver as you can have last year. So really looking forward to seeing what he could do in his 5th year. But yes, I'm going to go with the leading guy from last year. Now, of course, there are going to be guys that are going to be eating away at those receptions, those yards. Jack Velling, Brendan Parachek, the tight ends, which we've talked so much about. And then another guy we've talked a lot about, Nick Marsh. I will say this, we think the world of Nick Marsh on here. Like recruiting services do. They had him ranked in the top 150. We've been, matching those, if not exceeding those of what the recruiting services are saying, because I think he's going to be a special player here. I think he's going to be really solid here at Michigan State. But still, even as a talented receiver, as a true freshman, it's hard to be that up high on the leaderboard. Since 2016, only 2 true freshmen have caught at least 30 balls in their true freshman season. It's Donnie Corley back in 2016, and then Cody White. Those are the only 2 guys to do it. So don't expect him to go out and grab 60 balls this season. That might be a little tough for him. But yeah, Nick Marsh, definitely going to have something to say about it. Folks, we got a lot more to come. But first, I need to talk all your ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And just like you said at the top of the show, playoffs, yeah, they're long gone. The Olympics, my goodness gracious, they're going to be gone here pretty soon. But guys, FanDuel is keeping us going this summer. Even though the sports aren't supporting like we want them to, hey, they're going to keep us going with a boost or a bonus daily. All we got to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime we are in the mood, and they got something for everyone every day, all summer long. Again, a boost or a bonus daily. And let's say you're already itching to get some action on the Michigan State Spartans this upcoming season. Well, you can look at their win total of 4.5. Are you going to shoot over or are you going to go under? That's for you to decide. Or if you just want to bet a game, we'll make it that first game. Michigan State versus Florida Atlantic. Our Spartans 11.5-point favorites as things stand right now. So head over to FanDuel and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And guys, Home Field Apparel, they are back. I'm rocking Home Field right now. And if you have any self-respect for yourself, you should be rocking Home Field this season too. Now, I want everyone to listen because Friday, August 9th, could very well be when you're listening to this, is a big moment. They are kicking off the Can't Miss Kickoff 2024 campaign, and they are getting it started with their Platinum Box VIP memberships. Now, what on earth does that entail? What are you going to get other than the most comfortable clothing you've ever put on? You're going to be getting exclusive, never-before-seen items for Michigan State. They actually just dropped the design earlier this week. It's a hoodie with Sparty on it. But not like Sparty like you've seen him before. A Rose Bowl shirt from the 2014 season that shirt alone might just be worth getting the box for in itself. And then an MAC lawn sleeve shirt, koozie, socks, new hat, 20% off during the season. Guys, Home Field is where it's at. I start my season off with new purchases from Home Field every single year. Vintage apparel, the most comfortable clothing you will find. And best of all, guys, when you go to homefieldapparel.com, smash in promo code ONSPARTANS. All one word, ONSPARTANS. That's going to get you 15% off your first purchase, again, at homefieldapparel.com. Now, before we get more into the mix here, guys, thank you so much for making Locked On Spartans your first listen every single day. Now, go make your second listen Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, getting you started for the college football season, the landscape of college athletics, conference realignment, transfer portal, NIL, and of course, guys, the games that are actually coming up. The offseason is coming to a close. Go jump on Locked On College Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, the second question from Mr. Chacon. It's a big one. This is an exciting one. When is our next chance to have a Heisman contender? Is it next year? And before everyone starts, losing their minds right now, saying that I'm predicting the Heisman winner is in East Lansing next year, there's a difference to when will it happen and when will there be a chance for it to happen? Is it going to be against the odds that it's next year? Of course. It's very hard to be a Heisman contender. Like, we just had Kenneth Walker have a generational running back season, and even that wasn't enough to get him to New York. Now, were there other things at play there? Don't get me started. I'm trying to have a good Friday right now. But nevertheless, it's very hard. But just close your eyes and imagine. I'm asking a lot from you guys right now to close your eyes and imagine a lot of things so far this show. But close your eyes, imagine. Let's say that this season goes okay. Like a 7-5, or my goodness gracious, like an 8-4. A lot of momentum going forward here. Okay, well, next year's schedule, not too shabby. Like, you're opening up with Western Michigan, Youngstown State, Boston College, all at home. Now, we don't know when the Big Ten games are, but we know who and where they will be played. Like the road games at Iowa, at Nebraska, at USC. Okay, a little tough. At Indiana, at Minnesota, manageable. Your home games are Penn State, Michigan. Tough. Let's not get it twisted. A little tough. But then UCLA and Maryland. Okay, let's say that, Michigan State has momentum going. The offensive line shows a lot this year. The defensive line shows a lot. They're a winning team because, that's how you get to be a Heisman contender, is not just by being a great individual player, but also having a team that wins at least 9 games more times than not. So could it be with that schedule? It very well could be. If not, then my crystal ball only goes so far. But yes, of course, the guy that it would be, I know we almost just saw with running back a few years ago, but naturally I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Aiden Childs, and I try not to get too ahead of the skis here. Again, only 18 years old. He's going to go through some growing pains this season, but maybe he takes a jump from sophomore to junior year and really shows the nation what he is fully capable of. So I do like that. Now, the third question, if we go 9-3 this year, land a top 25 class, what is Jonathan Smith's expectation in year 2? Quite simply put, it has to be college football playoff. Like, if you go 9-3 this year, or just doubling your win total of what's expected, not just in Vegas, but a lot of analytics too. Like, no one's expecting, outside of East Lansing, no one's expecting to go 9-3 this year. And if you go 9-3, That just doesn't mean Aiden Childs is playing well, but that means your offensive line is playing well. The depth of the offensive line is playing well. That would be a lot of redshirt freshmen coming back that are in the 2 deep. That means that on the defensive line, guys like Alex Van Sumer and Ben Roberts have stepped up greatly this season. So you'd get them back next year. You might get Dylan Tatum and Malik Spencer back next year. If you go 9-3, that's because a lot of guys that aren't seniors played outstanding this year. So yeah, it would have to be after the most delirious offseason possible. It would have to be a college football playoff expectation if they just do start year 1 of the rebuild under Jonathan Smith that hot. And we just talked about the schedule. That is kind of a manageable schedule, as manageable as maybe you can get here in the Big Ten these days. No Ohio State, no Oregon next year. Oh, okay. That's okay. Thank you for signing us up for that one. Guys, let's head over to the basketball court right now. And not just any basketball court, but the one that will be built in the Superior Dome, Northern Michigan, because you know what? Long awaited. We've talked about it on this show many a times. They are doing it. Michigan State basketball. They are heading up to Northern Michigan Sunday, October 13th for an expedition game. Expedition game. There we go. How about that for the live show at the Superior Dome? That's where Northern Michigan plays football. This will be the first collegiate basketball game to take place in the 8,000-seat arena. How cool is this? So Tom Izzo, he had a big, long quote, but I'm going to read the whole thing just because I think there's a lot of actual substance in it. It's not just coach speak, but this obviously means a lot to Tom Izzo. So here we go. Quote, "To say I'm excited about the opportunity to bring my Michigan State team to play at Northern Michigan, my alma mater, would be a pretty big understatement. This is something we've wanted to try to do for a while, and I think it's going to be a pretty special event. We're excited to bring our team to the UP to play. It's going to be very cool to play a game in the Superior Dome, one of the really great venues in college athletics. I think this will mean a great deal to the people, not only in East Lansing, but especially for the great people in Marquette in the Upper Peninsula." So hitting on way more than just, Tom Izzo going home. It's going to be cool for the team what a well-traveled team, not only going to Spain, but also going to the UP. Not a lot of people in the world, right, have gone to Spain and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan within, what would that be, 2 months of each other? That's pretty unique just on its own, but really cool that he shouts out the community of the UP and just really giving back to the land that he built up there. That's right, Tom Izzo Land, all the way up there. So this will be the 6th exhibition game between Northern Michigan and Michigan State, the last one in 2018. And these two schools used to face each other in the regular season back in the day. The last time they've done that, the 1974 season, 1975 season. Who was Northern Michigan's point guard for those games? Oh, yeah, that's right. One Tom Izzo. So just a really cool full circle thing. And again, this is something that we've talked about on this podcast, and this isn't unique. We're not the only ones that talk about, hey, Michigan State should play a game up there in Northern Michigan in the Superior Dome. That'd be really cool. But we'd always talk about it on the heels of getting a question of where should Michigan State play next? They've already done aircraft carrier. They've done naval bases or military bases. They've played at Ford Field before stadium basketball was cool. What's their next unique thing? And I've just always said, it'd be really cool for Tom Izzo to go back home up there, Superior Dome. It would just seem like a full circle thing. Now, I've also said that, maybe you do that for his last season. I don't think this is his last season. So, a little off the mark there, but just a really, really cool moment right now. Now, what's next? Okay, this is another venue that they've crossed off in Michigan State's storied past of just playing in incredible venues. Is it crazy to say Spartan Stadium for a basketball game? Maybe it's going to be kind of like this. One thing I didn't remark on that I had in my notes here is that I find it unique, borderline unusual, that this game is on October 13th. That is a very early time to have an exhibition game. Usually it's in the last week of October, if not the first week of November. So that's interesting right there. But when it comes to the next venue that we would like to see, Spartan Stadium, maybe for an exhibition, it would have to be as early in the fall as possible. So maybe an early October thing like this. I don't know what team you'd have to face to get a big draw for that. Maybe you would have to get another blue blood in here and just agree to it. Hey, early on, let's just see where it goes. Make admission free or very low ticket prices. But you saw Nebraska volleyball do it last year. They sold out their stadium outside somewhat of a good climate is what you got to aim for here, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to, just throw out Spartan Stadium and see if you could pack 70,000 people in that stadium for an exhibition basketball game, no matter who it's against. Or if you really want to get nuts, harken back to the days of, I think it was the 2001 offseason, or the offseason between 2000 and 2001, off the heels of the national championship. Get the Harlem Globetrotters back. That's right. That'll get 70,000 people in the seats. No question about it. All right, folks, we will be back talking more about what Tom Izzo had to say about his basketball team. But first, Gametime, the greatest ticketing app out there. And as we are 3 weeks away from kickoff, I open up Gametime today because, well, even though we're 3 weeks out, you can still get flash deals on great seats at Spartan Stadium for the home opener. I looked at my favorite section, 16, 20 rows up, $63 a ticket. And that's not with like $30 worth of fees added onto it. They're not going to get you at the very end when you check out. That is an all-in price, because that is what Gametime is all about. Saving you money with their flash deals, with their last-minute ticket deals as you're walking up to the stadium, and just making it so easy. You're not going to get surprised in getting the tickets on your phone. No, it's not one of those experiences where you click 17 times and then they're emailed to you, and then, my goodness gracious, when's the email going to get here? And 2 taps, and they're just zapped straight to your phone. Guys, start saving money right off the bat with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Now let's mosey back on over to the basketball court here, because earlier this week, Tom Izzo spoke with the fine media contingent of Michigan State and had a lot to say. I got to say, seemed in a very good mood, sporting some little gruff around him. He had some thick 5 o'clock shadows. So he's enjoying himself this offseason because, well, I think he likes what he's seen from the practice floor. Right off the bat saying, quote, "We're an intriguing team right now. If we can put it all together, I think we're going to be damn good." When we've talked about Michigan State basketball this offseason, which hasn't been, often the last few weeks, I will admit it's been, pretty football dominant. But when it is brought up, we talk about how much of a coin toss this could be because of how many coin tosses there are just on this team. Like, can Xavier Booker basically triple, if not quadruple, his production from last year and just take a massive explosion in his role? Can Frankie Fiddler go from Summit League basketball to Power 6 basketball? Can Jaden Akins, can he handle the 2 and all that workload? Can Carson Cooper, Jackson Kohler actually take a leap forward? Simon Sapala, what's he... You guys know all the coin tosses going on, and if more than half of those turn true, okay, well, that could be a solid season coming up for Michigan State. But if more than half, way more than half those come true, okay, that is going to be, just like he said, a damn good season coming up. So, you know what? Maybe he's seen something the rest of us haven't in a while. That'd be nice for us. Now, of course, he commented on a bunch of players on his team. He spoke with the media for maybe 17 minutes earlier this week. Now, 2 guys he highlighted for being better than they thought they would coming in here: Simon Zapala, the Lawnwood transfer, the guy that didn't really play a lot over at Lawnwood. I think he was humming around somewhere like 14 or 16 minutes a game, but that's what Tom Izzo said. It's like, how good he is doesn't match the amount of minutes he got for Lawnwood last season. So I don't know if it was conditioning. Who knows if Lawnwood just had some whack rotations going on last year, or Simon Zapala has just exploded this year, or if you just want to be, glass half empty, said, well, okay, well, that maybe doesn't bode well for who we have in the front court right now. Maybe that anyone just looks good against those guys, but we're being positive here in today's episode. He did remark on his shooting, how he's even able to step out and knock down a 3-pointer. So, guys, if you've been craving a 7-footer that knocks down some 3-pointers, Tom Izzo has the guy for you, Simon Sapala by way of Lawnwood. He also highlighted Jace Richardson as being a guy that is way ahead of schedule right now, even ahead of schedule of where his dad was as a freshman. That's right, of course, Jason Richardson, the icon. He said, no, he's not saying that he's a straight-up better player right now. There's bits and parts of his game that are better than Jason Richardson's were back in the day. He remarked on his shooting and his defense, too. So, Jace Richardson, top 40 recruit. I mean, obviously going to have a really good career here. He's an athlete. Of course, he's an offspring of Jason Richardson. He came out of the womb with a 40-inch vertical. Of course, he's a good athlete. But the good defense is worth noting, because how do you get on the floor for Tom Izzo? Well, of course, you got to play some defense here. And who has very short leashes as freshmen because, well, they could take some Space Ranger trips on defense is freshmen. So if he's a really solid defender here, we could be seeing a lot of Jace Richardson in that combo guard role here. Could be a little bit of one, could be a little bit of two, but hey, stay tuned for that. Now, speaking of the point guard position, he offered this up on Jeremy Fears, who, of course, as many of us remember, missed the bulk of last season because he was shot back home over the holiday break. Quote, he's 99%, 98%. His shooting is still a little question mark right now, but as far as athletic, he got hit today, and it was in the thigh, and he gets sore when he does that. So that's really what he said, is that like he gets sore when he's hit there. Of course, basketball is a physical game, especially in the Big Ten, but that's where it's at right there. It's not so much like ligament damage or like a limited vertical jump from last year. He gets sore, so he's got to deal with that. And God, that just situation just sucks. I know I'm stating the obvious right now. Kid gets shot just hanging out in the house, minding his own business. Anyway, on to the next thing. Frankie Fiddler. Now, he did comment on Frankie Fiddler. What he did say about him is something that had my ears perk up, because it's something that we've been talking about Frankie Fiddler whenever he's brought up here and why we love him as a prospect, or at least one of the big reasons we love him as a prospect. Izzo said, okay, he's a big wing. He wasn't entitled, just like Tyson Walker wasn't entitled when he left Northeastern. He had to work his way up. But this is what he pointed out. He draws fouls. He's very good at drawing fouls. Guys, if you heard us talk about Frankie Fiddler, you already know the stat. Last year at Omaha, he got to the free throw line 7 times per game. 7 attempts per game is what he had at Omaha last year. It has been since the 2019 season where Michigan State has had at least one player average at least 5 free throw attempts per game. That was Cassius Winston. That is way too long to go without a guy that gets on the line for free points. Now, of course, it's not the only way he gets his points. He's a tough finisher inside the lane. He's also got a nice little stroke about him too. But yes, to hear Tom Izzo also say what we've been saying of it, hey, this is one of the top priorities in this kid's game, getting to the free throw line. Oh, that made me feel so good. Tom Izzo knows so much more about basketball than I do, but oh man, it's kind of like when you're watching a game and then you say something and the announcer says something like a second later and you just feel like the smartest guy in the room. I had one of those moments for the first time in a while here, so that was nice. Anyway, guys, the Spain trip is coming up next Tuesday. August 13th is when they are going to set sail over to Spain. They're going to hit up Madrid, Barcelona, for that's right, you study abroad heads out there, and then Valencia will be the third city. Now, last time they did this, a study abroad trip, or just a basketball abroad trip, I should say. I doubt they're going to pack any textbooks here. 2015 to Italy. I think the rest of that season went pretty okay. Now, they will be playing international rules. That's 8 seconds to get the ball beyond half court and a 24-second shot clock. So a little faster pace over there. Tom Izzo did say he's planning on using new lineups every half. Amongst that, playing Cohen Carr a little at the 4. Which just makes sense to me, especially since Frankie Fiddler is here. He's going to take up that 3 position. Jaden Akins, of course, can bump down and play that 3. You got Garrett Norman, who can play a little bit of the 3. With Cohen Carr and who he is as a shooter right now, the 4 just seems like such a natural fit for him. To go back to the days of Brandon Dawson, yeah, he might not be as tall as a 4, but just with his mean streak and, of course, his physical ability that he has, I think that's where Cohen Carr fits right there at the 4. So interested to see if he likes what he sees with those lineups, carries that into the season. But yeah, if you just want one podcaster's opinion, Tom Izzo, I think a lot of Cohen Carr at the 4 makes sense. Now, of course, he will have to coexist there with Xavier Booker, but that's just his natural position fit as things stand right now in his career. Now, he did offer up a pretty funny quote about Moneyball, saying, quote, "In all the years I've been here, I've never heard of one guy guarding another guy at Moneyball." So the 45 points and all that is a question mark. However, with that said, he did call Kurtang the best shooter on the team. True freshman out of the East Coast. So could be early time for him too. Now, really quick, new graduate assistant, but a familiar face if you've watched the Oakland basketball games last year. Blake Lampman from Hazlitt, so in the Lansing area, hired as a graduate assistant. Short story, but a cool story. He mentioned to Tom Izzo after last year's game that he wanted to work for him eventually in his career. And, well, how about just the very next season, kid? There you go, right there. So Blake Lampman, if he has any additional eligibility, which I know he doesn't, but if the NCAA doesn't want to look too hard, would not mind that on this year's team too. Now, 2 walk-ons have been added to the roster too. Not too far away, Okemos. So shout out to Anthony Ianni, shout out to Dan Chapman, shout out to all the previous Okemos to Michigan State walk-ons here. It is Brennan and Colin Walton. 2 guys, 6'7" players for Okemos. Okay, not too shabby. Now, how they were discovered, it's a great story. So KJ Torbert, Cameron Hudson, okay, kids of Calvin Torbert and then Audrey Hudson, former Michigan State legends. They played East Lansing. They were playing against Okemos. Okay, Hudson and Torbert reached out to Izzo. Were like, these kids are good. Like, these kids can actually play. So the Waltons, well, they're going to go to Central Michigan this fall. Not even to play basketball. Just maybe actually to help out with the investigation of what was going on the football sidelines. But it wasn't to play basketball. It was just to be normal students. A few weeks ago on the golf course, John Borovich, assistant coach of Michigan State, he calls him and says, hey, you want to do this? You guys want to be Spartans and walk on? So there you have it. 2 guys from Okemos. And this is also something to be said too. And this isn't me ripping on Izzo's walk-on decisions here. Like, if he wants his kid on the team, my God, it's Tom Izzo. He can do whatever he wants. I have no issue with Steven Izzo being a walk-on here, or Nick Sanders, for example. Like, that's a cool story in its own. But man, is the team next year going to be getting different looks against 2 kids that are 6'7" than they did with the walk-ons of the years past? So just that alone right there, very interesting story and a unique wrinkle in the walk-on life over there for Michigan State basketball. All right, guys. Hey, we will be back. We're going to kick things off next week with Hunter Stahl. That's right. If you don't know him, he was on last year. He's one of the evaluators of Pro Football Focus. We're going to go through all the numbers that you should know heading into next season. But until then, take care of yourselves this weekend. Love you all. Go Green.